I pay Brian Wall $0 a week, and he is worth every penny.
Dave, it's 6:15 in the morning. Is that appropriate time to talk about drum gates and triggers and stuff?
It's always an appropriate time to talk about drums.
I was hoping you would say that.
That's right. One of the things we started doing not too long ago that's been kind of a game changer for our drum setup is we started using triggers on acoustic drums. And so you say, like, why do we need triggers on acoustic drums? Well, we've got all these drums inside a shield and cymbals and all that stuff.
There they are.
And so one of the goals when you're setting up a drum kit is you want each mic to only be picking up what it's miking and not the other stuff. So we want to set a gate that opens when that drum hits and closes when everything else does, so everything sounds better for the kit. And so we got these triggers that actually trigger our gates, and they open them up when the drum hits. So when the drum hits, it vibrates the trigger tells the board, open the gate, and everything gets a lot tighter.
Is the trigger a physical thing on the drum itself?
We demoed a few different triggers, and we landed on the roll-in triggers.
Oh, yeah.
So there are specific tom triggers, which are single triggers, and then you also have a snare trigger that's specific for the snare, so you get rim shot and the snare. And then you have a kick trigger, so we're triggering snare, all three toms, and kick, and it sounds tight.
Are they triggering samples?
They're not triggering samples. They're just putting out
the gate.
They're putting out a sound when that drum is hit, and then the board sees that. It's called a gate key. And it keys off that, and it opens the gate as soon as it hears that sound.
So my prayer is this morning that it's just a reminder that whatever you are facing, whatever we are facing together, that the Lord will have his way. We just do our part, we serve him, we're faithful to him, and everything else works out. It works every time.
You conquer the grave, you free every captive, break every chain. You're so good, you're so good to me. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble.
Fuller, the title of this vlog is Why I Quit My Job at Church. Sounds like some clickbait, but I guarantee you it's all true.
Are you talking about the part where I walked into your office and said you're fired?
Yeah, what's the real story?
I looked at you one weekend, and I looked at myself, and I said, this place isn't big enough for the both of us, and I'm not going. You're fired.
I'm fired. I wanted to kind of talk about the fact that, like, what I do at this church is way different than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I've never really talked about that in a video. So if you watch the Sunday vlogs and watch the old Sunday vlogs, I'm a worship leader at the church. But if you watch the more recent videos, I don't really lead worship anymore.
Yeah, you do.
Well, I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I used to be full-time at this church. I was a campus worship leader in Garner. I was full-time there as a campus worship leader for about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. So what happened was, as worship tutorials grew and grew and grew, I told my campus pastor, Derek Mull, I have much love for Derek Mull, that I was going to need to quit my job and focus my time fully at worship tutorials. So about 9 months later, that actually happened.
Said, you can't quit, you're
I gave him a 9-month notice.
You did. It was a long ramp.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really talked about this, though. And so through that transition, we had a campus called Coffee House, which is where I kind of started up the Sunday vlog. Coffee House was an alternate, like, acoustic, sort of low energy, low volume
alternative
venue
environment
here at this campus in Durham, up in student ministry. So it happened at the same time that the services down here happened, and I led worship for that. But then, how long ago is it? It's been well over 6 months, almost a year.
A year, almost. 8 months.
About a year ago.
About 8 months.
8 months ago, we closed Coffee House down and moved that venue basically to a Monday night service. It was just not a fit for me to lead every week on Monday night. And so basically I became a volunteer at this church. So I say that all to say that I know many of you guys watching this are volunteers. And maybe you're a volunteer and you play guitar, keys, you're an instrumentalist or a vocalist. Maybe you're a volunteer but you lead worship, you're in charge. I know how it feels because I'm also a volunteer. One thing I'd like to say about that is that our roles as worship leaders or leaders in churches, we're here to serve in whatever need that a church has. And I have a huge heart for the church, and I love this church, and I hope you love the church where you serve. And LA told me, he's like, hey, we need guitar players in this season. So I'm going to ask you to play guitar. And you actually talked to me about it. You're like, Ryan, we're going to ask you to play guitar, and it's going to be at a different level that you've played guitar at before. Right. Yeah. And I had to practice. I had to learn how to play lead guitar.
You had to watch worship tutorials. You had to watch Brad's videos.
Do you guys know Jimmy? That Jimmy's like the world's greatest drummer? It goes Jimmy, Neil Peart, Ringo Starr, Bonham. Who was Led Zeppelin's drummer?
Oh, he's better than John Bonham. Jimmy is the single best non-professional drummer I've ever played with in my life.
It's an honor for me just to serve where there is a need and to fill that need, and it's very fulfilling for me. And it's also been a humbling experience because as a worship leader, singing into that microphone and leading people there are feelings associated with that if you're not careful, you can get kind of there's some arrogance in there.
Yeah, for sure.
That you have to let go of that. You don't want to have that involved in your life. So it's kind of taught me a little bit about that too. Yeah. But I just say all this to say, like, if you're a volunteer and you work a full-time job and you serve, and I know that there's a lot that goes, if you do it well, there's a lot that goes into it. And I know how it feels because I am where you are.
For those of you who feel like, maybe you're looking at Brian and you're going, oh yeah, but you've had all these great opportunities.
Right.
The reality is those opportunities come to you when you're ready. One, when you're physically ready to execute stuff at a high level, and two, when you're willing and in the right place. And for a lot of us out there, we can go years under the radar before someone quote unquote notices a gift or a talent. And I would just say during that period is when God is making us who we need to be.
Yeah.
So that when you do get a text at 4:30 in the morning, you weren't nervous. You were kind of like, oh, this will be a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Because
I was
you've done
excited.
it and you're ready and
Yeah.
you did a great job. And so I would just encourage you out there that, like, maybe there's something you're chasing after. Maybe there's something you feel like God has called you to. Don't be afraid to wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
Because in due time, when you are ready, the Lord will give you what you feel like He wants you to have. Do the best you can with what you have, and guard your heart, because it is the wellspring of life, and what's in your heart will come out. And so I think that when you're serving the Lord, when you're guarding your heart, when you're serving humbly, the Lord just blesses you, man.
Yeah.